Hello everybody! This video is about network hardware. So we've already talked about what hardware is and what software is, but this specifically is asking what is network hardware. So as we know, hardware is something physical that you can touch. Network hardware are devices that are needed to allow communication between devices. So using the network hardware, you can build a network. Now for your exam, you need to know the different common pieces of network hardware and what the differences are between them. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the NIC, or network interface controller, or network interface card sometimes. So quite often these are found just as a separate card inside older devices, but most of the time now they are built into the motherboards themselves. These just allow you to plug in your Ethernet cable so that you can connect to the internet. It's probably one of the most common cables that you'll have seen. So the next device, which is probably the most common one that you'll hear about on your exam, is what we call a network switch. Now a switch is a very clever device because it will remember where other devices are on the network using the MAC address. And because of that, it makes it really secure and it doesn't broadcast any information to any other device. It will send the data directly to the device it's intended to go to. So this device is the router. I'm guessing most people have probably heard of that one. Most people have got a router in their home, and if you get asked, what does a router do? About 9 people out of 10 will probably say it connects you to the internet. Now, yes, when we're at home, we will connect to our router. However, the actual job of the router, if you're describing it, is very different. So routers are used to connect multiple devices together. In terms of sending data, you could describe it as forwarding packets to the correct destination, or you could say receiving packets. So the next one is our WAP, our wireless access point. So if you think of a network, say in a school, you might not be able to visibly see these because quite often they're found underneath, those tiles in the ceiling which you can move, and it will allow other devices such as laptops and phones, tablets to join the network. Okay, next is cabling in a network. So the most common cable that you will come across is the Ethernet cable. And you won't really need to know this for your exam, but the most common forms of Ethernet cable are Cat5e and Cat6. The actual structure of these cables, they are made using copper wire, sometimes referred to as a twisted pair. And the reason that happens is to reduce interference, which allows the data to travel quicker. Another really common cable is coaxial cables. Now, they are very cheap. They're surrounded by plastic and it is a single copper wire. And they have a metallic mesh around them, not on the outside of the case, but inside of them, which will also shield against that interference that we've just been talking about. And finally, your last cable is fiber optic. Now, you've probably heard of this when you sign up for, say, your internet, like fiber broadband, that kind of thing. Data is transmitted extremely fast because it's transmitted as light. So it's really expensive to install this, but it's actually really effective and the data can travel very fast. Those are our most common types of network hardware. We've got some questions to practice as well. So this was one from a past exam, so this is quite a difficult one. So if you want to scroll back on the video and have a little look at it, some of the differences between a router and a switch. Now, as always, it's a 4-mark question, which means you need to come up with at least 2 differences, but then you need to explain the difference between those in a little bit greater detail. Next one, what is the role of a router? Remember to include that some of our key terminology, things like packets, forwarding and receiving from destination. And finally, explain why Mr. Moore should use a switch that is not a Nintendo Switch, a network switch, when creating a LAN. Okay, so let's go through the answer to those then. So what are the differences between a router and a switch? So a router connects you to the internet, a switch connects devices on a local area network. A router uses IP addresses for communication between devices. A switch uses MAC addresses. What is the role of a router? So a router forwards packets to the correct destination. A router connects multiple networks together. And finally, explain why Mr. Moore should use a switch when creating a LAN. It allows communication between devices, meaning data and files can be shared easily. And finally, it allows secure connections between devices due to using devices' MAC address. Okay, and that's all for this time. I'll see you soon.